Hi there once again. I'm back just a couple of days later than I said. This extract is from NOMAD and it concerns an operational calamity that occurred in West Irian, formerly Dutch West New Guinea, now an Indonesian territory. Ralph had been doing 3-week stints out of Jayapura and was just completing his third. Harry and Marie decided that he needed a break. Harry caught the regular Air New Guinea flight to Jayapura, giving Ralph 3 days to check him in to all the mountain strips that they were using. In spite of Harry's extensive experience, he found a couple of them well outside the parameters laid down for Papua New Guinea. One in particular was on the southern side of almost vertical mountains, with the lowest crossing point of this rugged range being 10,500 feet. Ralph, there's no way that we can get over those mountains at 10.5. They're at least 13 thou. Harry, you're right on track. Now see that area with no vegetation? That's your landmark for the gap. It's just to the right of that face. When we get up close, you'll see this little cut that runs through at an angle of about 30 degrees off track. Roger, Ralph. Geez, that bloody earthquake sure did some damage. Look at those slips down there. Even the rivers are dammed up. Yeah, took a couple of mission strips out as well, replied Ralph. Look up ahead there now. You can see the cut starting to appear. Ah, I got it. Shit, doesn't look very wide, Harry observed. Stick to the right and there's enough room for 2 aircraft to pass reasonably comfortably. When you get to the end, start slowing it down for a flat descent because you'll be very close and you've got quite a few feet of altitude to get rid of. I like to get to the magical 1,000 foot above the strip because remember, you have no benchmarks for your approach. It was like flying into a cliff face. The altimeter was only a guide as the calibration was inaccurate. It was a matter of eyeballing it to land on the threshold. Once the wheels touched, you had to apply full power to get to the top of the strip and the level parking bay, which was then too small for the NOMAD to turn in. You needed reverse thrust to shunt the aeroplane around in order to take off again. You did very well. A little low when turning final, but you adjusted perfectly. Ralph, with a big grin across his face, continued. Hairy, isn't it? Suits you. The takeoff reminded Harry of his skiing days and the near vertical shirt front at Mount Cheeseman in New Zealand. The only difference was that when he reached the bottom of this strip, he floated majestically off into the air. Over the next couple of days, Ralph completed checking Harry into all the strips they were using, and he returned to Wewak for a well-earned break. Harry was extremely conscious of how the cargo handlers loaded the aircraft, as it was a strange type to them. The loads were simple, though, in this case sacks of brown rice, and he noted that Ralph had shown the lads how to load with his usual professionalism. Harry settled into a routine, and whilst he greatly appreciated the generosity of the American Mission Aviation Fellowship, who provided their food and hospitality without question, he felt deprived of down-to-earth mateship. After the first week, he met one of the Dutch Catholic mission pilots who insisted that he come over and join his wife and child for a beer once he had finished flying for the day. Fritz and Helga became instant friends. Helga's Nordic beauty was attraction enough, but when she welcomed Harry with hugs and kisses. It became a home away from home. The Heineken beers, along with the camaraderie, started around 3 or 4 in the afternoon and concluded at 6, when it was time to join the American mission across the road for dinner. It was all very civilised. In 3 weeks, Harry had settled into a routine. On the job at daybreak, fly, 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 Dutch pre-dinner drinks, and then an American home-style cooked dinner and bed by 9. It was a Wednesday, with very unstable meteorological conditions prevailing. The towering cumulus had started building very early in the morning. Harry had managed to complete all his designated work for the day by 2:30 and had just shut down when Fred, the MAF chief pilot, approached him as he was descending from the cockpit. "Harry, would you mind doing one more for me, please?" "As long as I can get there, sure. But the weather's deteriorating fast, and I wouldn't have a show of getting to the other side." "No, this one's to Omban. I know you haven't been there, but come over to my office and I'll give you a briefing on it. You won't have any trouble with it." "Right, I'll just get the boys to fuel up and I'll be straight over," said Harry, turning away, waving and calling to the refuelers to attract their attention. After checking the load of rice and organising the refuelers, he wandered across to the office for his briefing. Fred was sitting at his desk as Harry entered. He rose and directed Harry to the map on the wall, pointing to the big valley that he crossed every day. "To find Omban is easy. Take your normal heading out of Santani and drop into the big valley there," he said, pointing out the position on the map. "The first little valley offshoot, left of track, goes straight into Omban. It's steep, but not as steep as Kali or Kuala, and plenty long enough for you. You'll only need a third of it. Here's a little plan of the strip and its amenities, etc., said Fred, handing the approach plate to Harry. "With the approach, if you want to land on the threshold, you'll need to wind your way up the river, and of course, once in the confines of the river, you're committed to land." "Thanks, Fred, that seems simple enough. The weather's the only thing that I have a doubt about. When I left Aso just now, it was certainly deteriorating. All the same, I'll give it a go." "Harry, you know the old story. If you don't like it, give it away and come home," said Fred, with one hand on Harry's shoulder, escorting him to the door. "Thanks, Fred. See you later." And with a wave of the hand, he was gone. After takeoff and levelling out at 8,500 feet, Harry had to dodge around several large and still developing thunderstorms before spotting the big valley and commencing his descent for Omban. Once below the cloud base, he could see the entrance to the Omban Valley and even make out the strip itself. The cloud base was black and there were heavy rain showers on either side of the strip. Commencing an orbit to give himself time to consider the stability of the situation, he decided that a landing was quite feasible and he commenced his approach. The turbulence grabbed the heavy laden aircraft, tossed it about as if it was a feather, and he soon found himself too high for the landing. Using all his skills and knowledge, he managed to regain control, but was still too high. He increased flaps and idled the power to produce a rapid descent, but then, with the power reapplied, he was unable to overcome the downdraft, and he managed only to raise the nose before contact with the ground. It was a heavy landing. About a third of the way up the strip, the nose wheel parted company and the nose sledged, furrowing its way to a rapid stop. Harry was thrown into three-point harness and the friction wheels locked solid. "Jesus Christ, what the hell have I done?" questioning himself on how it happened. He concluded that he should never have commenced the approach with the storm cells obvious on either side of the strip. Shutting down the engines, he had a quick reconnoitre to ascertain the damage. The local natives had surrounded the aircraft but were maintaining a respectful distance, staring with intense curiosity. Pan, Santani, this is India Alpha Tango. Pan, Santani, this is India Alpha Tango. After the fifth call with no response, he decided to call Wewak. It was obvious that Santani did not want to be bothered with the paperwork. Changing frequency. Pan, Wewak, this is India Alpha Tango. How do you read, over? India Alpha Tango, Wewak, read your fives, go ahead. Thank God for that, he thought. Wewak, Alpha Tango, I've had a landing accident at Omban. No injuries apart from my pride. The aircraft has snapped off the nose wheel and there are ripples in the skin of the stub wing. I've positioned a third of the way up the strip and it's just beginning to pour with rain, so I'm expecting to be here for the night. Could you please inform my wife, the company, Santani Tower, and MAF in Santani? India Alpha Tango, Wewak, Wilco. Pleased you're all right. Sleep tight. Good night. Thanks, Wewak. Good night. Harry switched everything off and noticed a native standing by the door, so he clambered down in the hope of some communication. Happy noon, you saw it to prison? Asked Harry. No, little English, me pastor church, said the man with a broad grin showing immaculate white teeth. Good man, Harry smiled back. Could you get some men to come and unload this rice from the aeroplane? The man smiled and let forth a high-pitched babble in his native tongue. Whereupon 20 men or so emerged with tree fronds with which they covered the sacks of rice to protect them from the rain, and within 10 minutes the plane was empty. The wind and rain continued, and Harry installed the control surface locks to prevent further damage to the aircraft. The pastor waited for him to lock the doors and suggested that he would be well cared for at the visiting missionary's house. He should follow the pastor, who would show him the way. The steep climb up the strip had Harry breathing heavily. Suddenly he heard the sound of a chopper, high overhead. He immediately turned and ran back down to the lonely NOMAD. Fiddling the key into the lock, he clambered into the cockpit and activated the radio. Chopper over Omban. This is India Alpha Tango. Do you read? He blurted into the microphone. Hi there, Harry. This is Fred. Seeing I sent you in there, I thought I'd better come and see if I can get you out. The weather's foul and I've just decided to return to Santani unless you can spot a clear patch that will give me access. Thanks for your consideration, Fred, but it's claggers down here. It's 5 now and I can't see it breaking, even with your chopper. I do appreciate your concern, but your pastor is taking good care of me and I'm happy to wish you back in the morning. If you could, Fred, I would appreciate it. Could you please set up a scheduled time in the morning when I can talk to our engineer, Steve Henderson, on Wewak's HF frequency? Roger, Harry. I'll be airborne at first light, so I'll be able to talk to you this VHF frequency 3 minutes after takeoff. Sleep tight and God bless. Thanks, Fred. See you in the morning, said Harry, switching off the radio and the master switch. As he relocked the door, the reality of all that had happened welled up inside him. and he had to choke back the tears. With umbrella erected, the pastor put his arm around Harry's shoulder, and they started to climb back to the top of the strip. In spite of Harry being a very good pilot, his pride had taken a huge dent. And not only that, he had placed the company in a critical position. With only the one aircraft for revenue, planning for the next few months was going to be a nightmare. Chartering another aircraft would be a complete loss. Cross-hiring might allow him to break even. That's if he can find a suitable aircraft. The dilemma of deliberation. I'll be back shortly. Bye.